Are you struggling with anxiety? Do you keep getting triggered by situations or places or people and negative emotions keep overwhelming you? And it seems like you can't heal and the issues just keep getting bigger. In this video I break down a conversation of Jordan Peterson and John Deloney, and they dive deep into trauma, past wounds and how you can start resolving them. So let's get into it. The truth is, your past and especially your childhood have a much bigger effect on who you are and how your life is going than you probably think. Listen to John Deloney here.
Those stories we're born into and the stories we were told have such a formative shaping of our life experience. And those stories become the stories we tell ourselves, which, as we all know, in mental health professionals, that shapes everything. Who I think I am and what I think I'm capable or not capable of, or I'm the worst thing that ever happened to me. Those stories are highly limiting, or they are the jet fuel on a well-lived life, right?
They shape your life. As small children, our subconscious takes in everything that it sees and experiences. Because especially between the ages 0 to 5, we don't have a critical faculty developed yet. A voice inside of our minds that says, no, that's not true, that is BS. So we take in everything. That also goes for when someone tells us, hey, you're stupid, or you cannot do anything good enough, or you're worthless, or something similar. And it doesn't just go for things people say, but also how they act toward us. If they act distant or cold, we take that in as we are unlovable. We are not worthy of being loved or someone acting warm to us. And it's also what we experience around us. For example, if we experience terrible things from our parents or from the people closest to us, these experiences stay stuck within us and usually remain unresolved until we start dealing with them. But more about that later. First, let's listen to what Jordan Peterson says here.
A story manifests itself in a personality, in a set of goals and a set of assumptions about the world, perceptions about the world. And if you have had terrible things happen to you in the past, and that's pretty much true of everyone, although some people more than others, then your body computes the present danger of the environment based on how many things have happened to you that are terrible in the past that aren't resolved. And resolved would mean that you had generated a solution for them. And if your psychophysiological system assumes that all the danger that you were subject to once is still present in the environment, then it's going to set you on edge as if you're walking in dangerous territory.
If your issues are unresolved, your body operates as if these issues were still present. That's where triggers come from. A trigger can be anything, a place, a person, a situation that brings up a strong feeling inside of you. A feeling that is unproportionate to the reality of the situation. And the feeling is unproportionate to the reality of the situation because you have a past traumatic experience connected to that. This next clip gives you an example to make that clear.
Can I listen to my body and just, instead of rushing to the diagnostic and rushing to Google or rushing to WebMD can I just ask myself, what's my body trying to protect me from? Like what? Whoa, I just walked into a room full of people and my heart rate just went up to 200 beats per minute and my hands are getting sweaty. What are you trying to protect me from? These are my people. These are my friends. This is a wedding I got invited to. Oh, okay. I used to not be safe in this situation. I'm safe now. I'm okay now. And I can think that through, that gap between, instead of racing over to the bar to grab a drink to quiet that alarm system, or to race over to the snack table and get a piece of cake, which is what I go to quiet the alarm system. I'm a good Southern Christian, so I like to eat my feelings. Like instead of those issues, I can just be really curious, and I'm not going to go to war with my body and try to shut the alarms off. I'm just going to listen to him and say, hey, what's it trying to tell me right now?
The room full of people brings up anxiety because in the past, a similar situation was dangerous or emotionally overwhelming. For example, maybe as a small child you entered a room full of people and everybody started laughing. Maybe not even at you, but your subconscious interpreted it this way. And for small children, that can be very emotionally overwhelming. And from then on, your brain, your subconscious, brings up anxiety whenever you're about to enter a room full of people as a signal to protect you from not entering that room, so you don't experience the same negative emotions again that you experienced in the past when all the people started laughing. And as John said, don't shut down your alarm system. Listen to it. What is this alarm system, the anxiety? What is your body trying to tell you? Where does this come from? And in this next clip, Jordan makes that clear as well. Past situations that have been emotionally overwhelming and are still unresolved haunt you as memories. And as explained, your subconscious does this to protect you, so you don't find yourself in a similar situation again. Let's listen to this next clip.
If you have a memory that's older than about 18 months and it haunts you, and when it comes up involuntarily, it produces a stress reaction, what that means is that as far as your nervous system is concerned, and so as far as your body's concerned, that danger hasn't gone away. And what's happening is an unconscious alarm system that's looking for pitfalls and holes is warning you that the map that you're using is incomplete in a manner that might enable you to fall into the same hole.
So what can you do now to resolve these issues? To let go of past wounds and traumas? Well, the answer is relatively simple, but not easy. Let's listen to John.
The only way through this is to turn and face it and walk directly through it, right? And if you continue to run from the memories and pathologize and chase the behaviors, you end up with our over-diagnostic approach to everything instead of turning and facing these things and letting your body heal through relationships and other things in your life. Man, we just end up chasing your tail. And you called it out. The more you run, the more your body thinks it's winning. It's getting away from this stuff. So it actually reinforces the anxiety. It reinforces some of these like psychological ailments the further you run from it. The only healing is through it. And in the culture we've created for ourselves says that uncomfortable discomfort is bad and it's to be avoided at all costs.
Yes, you have to face it. Running from it creates the exact opposite effect. It tells your body, it tells your subconscious, yes, the anxiety signal is working and is well received, so let's make it stronger. Ever notice that when people deal with an issue at an early age and they don't resolve that, they grow into it and it seems to become stronger and even bigger of a problem? Maybe you've seen that for yourself as well, but a recent example that I have is that a few months ago I met an old friend again, and back in the day she really had issues with adapting to new situations in different strange environments that were not her comfortable environments that she knew. She always felt like small anxiety, was nervous and had issues dealing with that. Now, this was years ago, and a few months ago we met again after we hadn't seen each other for a while. And this issue was just absolutely to the extreme. Like she almost got panic attacks and strong anxiety from even the thought sometimes of getting into a new situation. And being in a new situation, in a different environment, was almost unbearably hard for her. So you could really see how this issue had grown into a huge monster of a problem because it was never addressed or resolved. That happens when you keep running from your problems. Because again, your subconscious gets a signal, hey, great, the anxiety is working, so let's amp it up and make it more and more often so we make sure we don't find ourselves in these situations. Jordan briefly explains that as well in this clip here.
If you run, then the signal that the story you're acting out is that the thing you're running from is bigger than you and that you have to hide. And that's just a recipe for anxiety.
And of course, facing your issues is not easy. Change never is. So we keep shutting it off and run away from these problems and hope that at one point they'll just leave us alone. But as I just explained, these issues will not leave you alone. They will just grow stronger. In order to heal or resolve them, you have to face them, just as Jordan explains here.
We get nervous, and that fantasy will make itself manifest, but you don't want to face it, and that's when you rush to a premature solution. You shut it off.
Right.
Yeah, so what you're doing there is you're failing to allow the anxiety-ridden fantasy to make itself manifest. And you do that because you don't want to know where you're vulnerable, right? And no wonder, like, who the hell wants to know where they're vulnerable? But the answer to that is, well, someone who wants to fix it.
Yes, again, of course it's hard. No one wants to see all of these issues, see where we are vulnerable, or where our negative emotions come from, or even worse, be confronted with these negative emotions. But if at one point you want to resolve this, or keep it from growing even stronger and controlling your life, you will have to face it. But let's listen to this clip from Jordan to get into how you can actually do that.
If something is making you anxious and afraid and miserable, it's very useful to write out all the reasons it's making you anxious and miserable, and to ask yourself, what is it you're afraid of? And then to develop a differentiated plan for dealing with those.
It can be very useful to break things down and make yourself clear what about this are even the issues. Sure, you can say, I am afraid of that wedding because it brings up anxiety, but breaking it down further, you might write, seeing many people all at once makes me anxious. Large crowds make me anxious. The thought of not knowing everyone makes me anxious. Being in an unfamiliar environment makes me anxious. Or whatever it is, this goes hand in hand with what Jordan says here.
Break down the problem into small and manageable steps. And so, for example, one of the things that you can do if you might have to consider getting a new job because you're unhappy and miserable at work is open up your resume or your CV and look at it, right? So you might not be able to get a new job, but you might be able to open up your resume and look at it. And then having done that, you sort of cracked the surface, and then maybe you could spend an hour a week for a month updating it, or 10 minutes a day, or 10 minutes every 2 days, something like that.
This may not be applicable for every situation, but if you can break the issues down, break them down into smaller steps. For example, just looking at the resume. Or for the wedding, it would be just imagining yourself being there in this crowd full of people. Really think simple here. By breaking it down like this, you can get to a point where you can actually start taking action and working on these things. And bring the issues that you have to your mind proactively, thinking about them and feeling whatever feelings come up is also a very great thing to do on your healing journey. Let's listen to what Jordan says here.
One of the things that people can do that's very useful is, if you have memories like that plague you, is to bring them to mind voluntarily instead of waiting for them to come after you involuntarily, and then to think through what has changed and what might not have, but also to come up with a plan so that if a similar circumstance arose, you'd be in a better position in one way or another to deal with it. There's no other way of getting the memory to go away. Like, merely recontemplating it in the same manner over and over won't do it.
If you have situations in your mind where you still have emotions attached to, in order to heal this, you have to keep bringing it up and you have to keep walking through it and allowing the emotions and feeling the feelings that are still connected. By bringing it up and feeling through the feelings, you give your subconscious the space that it needs to actually resolve these feelings and process them so they can leave you alone. And by the way, this is also the exact process that I use with all of my clients when we go into deeper traumatic issues. One problem often is that you have issues from your childhood where you don't have a conscious memory anymore. Like, I don't remember what happened when I was 1 year old or 2 years old, but subconsciously you always know what happens. Because if your subconscious wouldn't have a recollection of that, a memory of that, then it wouldn't be an issue. And with hypnosis, you can go to these exact issues, these situations that happened, whenever that were, may that be 1 year old or 10 years old, doesn't matter. You can go back there and then you walk through these memories and you allow the feelings to come up so you can finally process them and like this finally resolve them. And these unresolved issues inside of you often don't just grow stronger emotionally, but they can actually lead to physical problems and issues, just as John says here.
We're looking at the long-term data, man, and people are having strokes and cancer and heart attacks from childhood experiences. And that made me step back and go, whoa, there's these different layers to these stories happening all over the place.
Yes, strokes, heart attacks and cancer. It can really build up like that. Of course, I cannot talk about causation here, just about correlation. But I also had clients who had physical issues. Things like acid reflux, arthritis, or also fibromyalgia. And with hypnosis, you can get to the root cause, to the bottom of these issues, which are usually emotionally overwhelming childhood experiences. And after resolving these emotional issues, the physical symptoms went away as well. But again, I can only talk about correlation here, not about causation. But if you want to learn more about how to resolve deep emotional wounds and issues inside of you, so you can finally let go of them, grow and move on, then check out the video right over there, where I break that down in depth.